am Emily Carter, 29 years old, an accountant living in Portland, Oregon, and last Sunday morning I found out my family had gone on a Caribbean cruise without me. The shock wasn't just that they didn't invite me, it was that I accidentally paid for it. It started with a quiet morning in my apartment. My cat, Milo, was curled up at the foot of my bed. The blinds let in streaks of autumn light, painting gold lines across the gray walls. I was sipping my first cup of coffee, scrolling through emails, when a chase alert popped up. Recent purchase. Royal Seas Cruise, $6,742. My stomach flipped. First I thought it was fraud. I grabbed my phone, heart pounding, and dialed the number on the back of my blue credit card. While the hold music droned on, I absent-mindedly opened Instagram. That's when I saw it, my sister Rachel's story. A wide shot of the ship's deck, champagne glasses raised, my mom and dad beaming in sunglasses, my younger brother Michael throwing his arm around her. The caption, "Family Cruise, finally." My throat tightened. The customer service rep came on the line. "Hi, Miss Carter. Can you confirm the purchase in question?" My voice cracked. I didn't book a cruise. She typed quickly. "It shows here this card has been used multiple times by authorized family members. Do you want to dispute the charge?" I froze. Authorized family members? My memory jolted back. 5 years ago, when I had co-signed a card for emergencies while my parents refinanced their house. I thought it was canceled long ago. Apparently it wasn't. "Can you tell me who used it?" I asked. The rep hesitated. "It appears the main booking was made by a Linda Carter. My mom." My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I muted the call, scrolled back to Instagram. More photos loaded. Dad at the buffet, Rachel in a bikini posing against turquoise water, Michael holding a fancy cocktail. All of them smiling. No empty seat, no trace of me. Unmute. "So, Miss Carter, do you wish to block the card?" The rep asked gently. My eyes burned. "Yes. Block it." After I hung up, I just sat there, staring at the blue credit card. The plastic edge dug into my palm, suddenly heavy. It wasn't just money. It was my silence, my effort, my years of saying yes whenever they needed help. And they used it for a memory I wasn't even in. I stood up, pacing the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed, magnets clattering as I slammed the door shut after grabbing a bottle of water. My reflection in the microwave glass looked pale, stunned. "Why?" I whispered out loud. Milo meowed softly, as if echoing the question. I dialed my mom. It rang once, twice, then voicemail. Her cheerful recorded voice. "Hi, this is Linda. Leave me a message." I didn't. My thumb hovered, then I hung up. My chest ached with a mix of anger and humiliation. The rest of the day blurred. I tried focusing on spreadsheets for a freelance client, but numbers swam on the screen. Every few minutes, another photo notification buzzed. Rachel tagging everyone but me. Michael writing captions like, "Best family trip ever." It felt deliberate, like each post was rubbing salt into a wound. By evening I couldn't take it anymore. I texted my cousin Sarah. "Did you know about this cruise?" She replied instantly. "Yeah, your mom mentioned it at dinner weeks ago." "Wait, you didn't go?" I stared at her message, jaw clenched. My fingers flew. They never invited me. But I just realized I paid for it. The typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared. Finally. I'm so sorry. That's messed up." I set the phone down, but the screen kept lighting up with their posts. Fireworks from the deck, matching family t-shirts. Mom's hand holding Dad's as the sun dipped below the horizon. My chest hollowed. I wrapped myself in a blanket and sat on the couch, lights off. Outside, rain streaked the windows, tapping like impatient fingers. My mind replayed every small moment of being the overlooked one. The missed birthdays, the way they laughed louder at Michael's jokes, the Christmas when Rachel got the heirloom necklace and I got a sweater. This cruise wasn't an accident. It was a pattern. I reached for my journal and scribbled furiously. They left me out. Again. But this time they made me pay. My handwriting cut deep grooves into the page. I slammed it shut. As I tried to sleep that night, the last image I saw before closing my eyes was Rachel's post. A video of everyone clinking glasses. My mom's voice laughing. To family. But I wasn't part of that toast. I was footing the bill from 1,000 miles away. And what I didn't know yet was that this wasn't just about money. It was about how my family truly saw me. And soon I would find out exactly how cruel that truth could be. Monday morning came too soon. My alarm blared at 6:30, but I had already been awake for an hour, staring at the ceiling. Portland's sky was gray and wet, the kind of drizzle that seeped into your bones. Milo pawed at me for food, but even his usual persistence couldn't lift the heaviness in my chest. I pulled on a navy blazer and black slacks, the safe work uniform I wore when I couldn't think of anything else. I drove to my office downtown, windshield wipers squeaking. The freeway was slow as always, tail lights glowing red against the mist. NPR droned in the background, but I didn't hear a word. My mind kept circling the same thought. They celebrated together. With my money. Without me. At the office, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, too bright against my tired eyes. I swiped my badge, forcing a smile at the receptionist. In the break room, two coworkers, Jessica and Mark, were chatting about their weekends. "You should have seen the buffet on the cruise," Jessica gushed. "Unlimited lobster tails." Mark laughed. "Man, I'm jealous. My kids would lose their minds." I stiffened, clutching my travel mug. The word cruise made my stomach drop like an elevator. I shuffled past them, mumbling morning, and ducked into my cubicle. Booting up my computer, I tried to drown myself in spreadsheets. But my phone buzzed. Another Instagram notification. Michael posting a photo in a tuxedo, captioned "Family Night on Deck." I swiped it away, but not before noticing the comments. "What a beautiful family. So glad you all are together." My throat burned. Around noon, Sarah texted me again. "Are you okay?" I typed. "I'm at work. Trying not to cry." She replied with a heart emoji, but no words could patch the hollow ache. By lunch I couldn't eat. I wandered down to the small cafe across the street, ordered a black coffee and sat by the window. Outside, people hustled by in raincoats, umbrellas bobbing. I watched them, wishing I could slip into their lives for just a day. Someone whose family didn't treat them like an afterthought. Memories slipped in, little slights that had stacked up over the years. Christmas 3 years ago, when Dad gave Michael a new MacBook and handed me a Target gift card. Rachel's bridal shower, when Mom introduced me as the single one, always working. Even at Thanksgiving last year when I cooked half the meal, but the family photo on the mantel didn't include me because I'd been the one taking it. I sipped my bitter coffee and stared at the rain streaks on the glass. Why do I keep forgiving them? Back at the office, I logged into my Chase account, scrolling through charges. Each line felt like a jab. Royal Seas excursions, $280. Photo package, $199. Fine dining upgrade, $460. Every luxury they enjoyed was stamped with my name. I whispered under my breath. "They're eating lobster on my dime." Around 3 o'clock, my manager, Kevin, popped his head over the cubicle wall. "Emily, you okay? You look pale." I forced a smile. "Just tired." He frowned. "Make sure you're not overworking. You're one of my best." I nodded, grateful for his kindness. But inside, shame churned. My own boss valued me more than my family did. The day crawled on until 5. Driving home, rain pounding harder now, I gripped the wheel tighter than usual. Every traffic light felt like a test of patience I didn't have. When I finally stepped into my apartment, the silence hit me like a wave. I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes and collapsed onto the couch. Milo climbed onto my lap, purring softly, grounding me. I opened Instagram again, like scratching at a wound. This time it was Rachel posting. A group shot of everyone dressed in white linen on the beach. The caption, "Couldn't ask for a better family." The comments stung more than the picture. "Perfect family goals. So beautiful all together." My vision blurred with tears. All together except me. I threw my phone onto the couch and buried my face in my hands. The apartment was too quiet. The hum of the fridge too loud. Every creak in the walls echoing my loneliness. And yet, under the grief, something else began to simmer, anger. Not just at them, but at myself for letting this pattern repeat. I whispered into the empty room. "This has to stop." But what I didn't realize was that the real breaking point hadn't even arrived yet. It would come soon, louder, harsher, and in front of someone who would never let me forget it. Saturday afternoon, Sarah invited me out to brunch. She said I needed a distraction, some air, maybe a mimosa. I almost said no. My instinct was to stay curled up at home, hiding under blankets, But the thought of staring at Instagram alone made me cave. The cafe she chose was bright and noisy, with Edison bulbs hanging low over wooden tables and the smell of maple syrup thick in the air. Families crowded around pancakes, couples clinked coffee mugs. I tugged my cardigan tighter, trying to feel invisible. Sarah waved me over. Over here. She was all smiles, her brown hair pulled into a messy bun. She hugged me tight. You look like you haven't slept in days. Because I haven't, I muttered, sliding into the booth. She ordered us mimosas and an omelet to share. Okay, she said gently. Tell me everything. I spilled it all, finding the charges, seeing the photos, the silence when I called. Sarah's eyes widened. They really didn't invite you? At all. I shook my head. Not a word. Not even a fake excuse. She let out a low whistle. That's brutal. Our food arrived, steaming plates clattering onto the table. I poked at the omelet, appetite gone. My throat burned. I could barely breathe. I grabbed my phone, needing air, needing out. I need the restroom, I stammered, sliding from the booth. My legs wobbled as I crossed the crowded cafe. Inside the restroom, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I locked the stall and pressed my back to the cold metal door, clutching my phone like a lifeline. My hand shook so hard the screen blurred. I pulled up Instagram again because I couldn't stop myself. And there it was. A fresh post from Rachel. Everyone lined up on the ship's staircase, champagne flutes raised. Mom in a glittering dress. The caption. Cheers to family unity. I nearly dropped the phone. Unity. They toasted unity without me. My breath came in ragged gasps. My palms were clammy, my vision tunneled. I felt like a child again, the forgotten one, the background piece in someone else's family photo. The stall door rattled. Someone else trying to get in. Occupied. I croaked, voice breaking. I sank onto the toilet lid. Phone pressed to my chest. Tears streaming hot and silent. All the little humiliations, Target gift cards, empty chairs at holidays, introductions as the single one, rushed back like a flood. But this was the loudest message of all. You don't belong here. After a few minutes I wiped my face, forced myself to breathe and texted Sarah. I can't stay. I'll call you later. I slipped out of the cafe without looking at her. The autumn air slapped me cold, sharp with rain and exhaust from passing cars. I walked fast, heart hammering, until I reached my car. Inside, I slammed the door and gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. My phone buzzed with Sarah's messages. Are you okay? Please talk to me. But I couldn't answer. Instead, I pulled up the family group chat. It was filled with photos. Dad's wide grin, Michael juggling drinks, Rachel's selfies. I scrolled, jaw clenched, until I saw it. Mom's message from 3 days ago. Glad Emily isn't here to complain. We can finally relax. The words blurred, bile rising in my throat. My own mother mocking me to the whole family. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone through the windshield. But all I did was sit there, shivering, as rain tapped the roof in a cruel rhythm. And deep inside something cracked. Not just sadness but fury. The kind that doesn't fade with apologies. The kind that waits, sharp and patient, until the right moment to strike. What I didn't know was that moment was coming sooner than I thought, when I'd finally confront them, and they'd try to twist the knife even deeper. The night after brunch I couldn't sleep. Rain drummed against my bedroom window, and Milo paced restlessly, sensing my mood. At 1 a.m. I gave up, grabbed my phone, and opened the family group chat again. New messages filled the screen. My brother Michael had posted a blurry video of karaoke night on the cruise, him belting out Bon Jovi while everyone cheered. Rachel replied with a string of laughing emojis. Dad typed, "That's my boy." I couldn't stop myself. My fingers flew. Funny how you all used my credit card but couldn't bother inviting me. For a moment, silence. Then the replies started. Rachel. OMG, not everything is about you. Mom. We didn't think you'd want to come. You hate boats. Michael. Oh, she's so dramatic. Chill. My chest tightened. I typed again. You stole thousands of dollars from me. That's fraud. Dad finally chimed in. Watch your tone, young lady. Family helps each other. You've been single and stable, of course you could pitch in. We're building memories. My hand shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Memories. They built memories on my back. I screenshotted everything, heart pounding, and opened my Chase app again. New charges kept rolling in. Royal Seas gift shop, $325. Spa package, $490. Each line stab. My stomach knotted. I fired a message into the chat. You'll pay me back every cent. Or I'll dispute it. Rachel sent a laughing gif. She thinks she's the bank police. Michael added. Good luck, loser. You always act like the victim. Tears blurred my vision. My own siblings mocking me while sipping cocktails I paid for. Then Mom's message came, colder than the rest. Emily, don't ruin this for everyone. You've always been difficult. Please stop embarrassing yourself. Gaslighting. That word flickered in my mind like a warning siren. Difficult. That's what they always said when I pointed out the unfairness. I shut off my phone, tossing it onto the couch. The silence of my apartment roared in my ears. I paced, fists clenched, replaying their words. Difficult. Dramatic. Chill. Finally, I opened my laptop, determined to see the damage in full. I downloaded every statement from the past 6 months. My eyes scanned line after line. Restaurants in Miami, jewelry stores, excursions, even a luxury car rental. Thousands all tied to that one blue card. My name stamped on every bill. I printed the statements, paper spilling hot from the printer, the smell of toner filling the air. I spread them across my kitchen island like evidence in a courtroom. The numbers screamed at me. $280 here, $460 there, totals climbing into 5 figures. I grabbed a highlighter and began marking. Charges I never made, stores I'd never visited. By the time I finished, my hands were ink-stained and trembling. The pages glowed neon with theft. Milo leapt onto the counter, pawing at the papers, as if even he knew something was wrong. I whispered, "They're bleeding me dry." My phone buzzed again. Another message in the family chat, this time from Dad. "We'll talk when we're back. Don't make a scene." The audacity. I clenched my jaw so tight it hurt. They thought I'd stay quiet like always, that I'd swallow the humiliation just to keep the peace. But as I stared at the highlighted statements, a new thought took root. Maybe it's time I stopped being the quiet one. I stacked the papers neatly, slid them into a folder, and placed the blue card on top. My fingers tapped against the plastic. It had once meant trust. Now it was a weapon. Somewhere deep in my chest, anger began to harden into resolve. And I didn't realize it yet, but the moment I shared this with someone outside the family, the moment I thought I'd found an ally, would change everything. The folder sat on my kitchen island for days, a stack of accusations waiting to be unleashed. I didn't know who to turn to, until my phone buzzed with a call from Aunt Debbie. Her voice was warm, honey-thick with her North Carolina drawl. "Sweetheart, I heard from Sarah. She said you weren't on the cruise. What happened?" Something inside me cracked. I poured it out, how they'd used my card, how they mocked me in the group chat, how Mom called me difficult. Debbie listened quietly, the clink of her teacup faint in the background. "Oh, Emily," she sighed. "You've always been the one holding things together, and this is how they treat you? It's not right. Not one bit." Her validation hit like sunlight through clouds. My chest loosened for the first time in days. "So you believe me?" "Of course I do. You've worked since college, paid your own bills, helped your mama when she was short. And they've leaned on you too much." I bit my lip, tears threatening. "Thank you. I thought I was losing my mind." "Don't you dare think that," she said firmly. "You're not crazy. You're just surrounded by people who want you to feel small." For a moment, I let myself imagine what it would be like if Debbie were my mom. Steady, kind, no games. She continued, softer now. "I can't fight your battles, Em, but I can stand beside you. You need to protect yourself. Start with that card. Close every door they can use." Her words planted courage in me. After we hung up, I sat taller, staring at the folder. Maybe I wasn't alone after all. But that feeling didn't last. The next evening, as I reheated leftover pasta, my phone buzzed with a text from Debbie. "Don't be mad, honey, but I told your mom we talked. She was upset. Said you misunderstood. She asked me to remind you that family sticks together." The fork slipped from my hand, clattering against the plate. My stomach dropped. I scrolled further. Debbie had forwarded me a screenshot. A message from Michael in the family chat. "She thinks Aunt Debbie's on her side. LOL. She's pathetic. The screen blurred with tears. My chest clenched so tight I gasped. Debbie had meant well, maybe, but she'd betrayed my confidence. And my family? They were laughing at me again behind my back. I slammed the phone onto the table, sauce splattering. Milo darted under the couch, startled by the sound. For a long moment I sat frozen, breath shallow, hands trembling. The warmth I'd felt that morning curdled into something sour. Even my safe person wasn't safe. I wiped my face, whispering to the empty apartment, I can't trust anyone. But then my gaze drifted to the folder on the counter. The papers glared up at me, highlighted charges like neon wounds. Debbie's misstep didn't erase the truth. If anything, it made the next step more urgent. I rose, wiped the table clean, and slid the folder into my work bag. My mind sharpened. If my family wanted to laugh at me, fine. But I wasn't going to stay their punchline, and soon I'd find a spark of hope from the most unexpected place. Proof that maybe, just maybe, I could fight back. Monday evening I sat at my kitchen table with the folder open again. Paper spread like a storm across the wood. The highlighted lines glowed under the yellow light of the hanging lamp. Milo curled nearby, tail flicking, as if he too felt the tension in the room. I couldn't stop thinking about Debbie's betrayal. My trust once again twisted into a weapon against me. But somewhere under the sting a stubborn spark burned. If I couldn't trust family, maybe I could trust the paper. Numbers didn't lie. I logged back into my Chase account, pulling up months of statements. Scrolling, I noticed patterns, charges that lined up exactly with my mom's errands. A luxury salon visit in Miami. A bill from a jewelry store in Seattle, just weeks after I knew Rachel had posted about her birthday diamonds. A car rental in Florida with my dad's name on the receipt. I clicked through, downloaded receipts, screenshots, and confirmations. Each PDF was another piece of proof. The folder on my desktop grew heavy with files, labeled fraud _ evidence. My phone buzzed, a work reminder. Quarterly reports due tomorrow. I laughed bitterly. Here I was, balancing corporate budgets flawlessly, while my own family treated me like their private bank. I poured myself a glass of wine, took a long sip, and whispered, "No more." The thought of calling the bank again made my stomach twist, but I forced myself. The line rang, click after click, until finally a polite male voice answered. "Chase Fraud Department, how can I help?" I explained shakily. "I didn't authorize these charges. They're from my family, but I never gave them permission." He asked me to hold. My fingers tapped nervously against the stem of my glass. When he returned, his tone was sympathetic. "Ms. Carter, your account shows an additional authorized user. Linda Carter. It was added 5 years ago." My chest tightened. I thought that was temporary. For an emergency. "Unfortunately, unless you remove her, the account remains active," he said. "But you have the right to close this card, dispute past charges, and request reimbursement." The word reimbursement echoed in my ears. Real solid possible. I scribbled notes furiously. Close card. File dispute. Gather receipts. It wasn't just anger anymore, it was a plan. When the call ended, I stared at the blue card on the table. Once it had felt like a burden. A leash binding me to my parents' whims. Tonight it looked different. Not just plastic. Piece of evidence. A weapon. I slipped it into the folder right on top of the papers as if crowning the pile. The card was no longer theirs. It was mine, proof of how far they'd crossed the line. The anger in my chest shifted into focus. For the first time since that Instagram alert, I felt steady. There was a path forward. I texted Sarah. "I'm filing a case. They won't get away with this." She replied instantly. "Good. About time." I smiled faintly. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. Still, questions gnawed at me. Why had my mom kept that card active all these years? What else had she done with my name? I leaned back, letting the wine swirl in the glass, and stared at the rain dripping down the window. There was more under the surface. I could feel it like a riptide pulling me deeper. And soon I'd uncover the truth. One that would flip everything I thought I knew about my family's finances. By Wednesday night, my apartment looked less like a home and more like an evidence room. Statements pinned with sticky notes covered the dining table. Receipts scattered across the couch. My laptop glowing with tabs open to bank portals and PDF files. Milo prowled the edges, tail flicking as if suspicious of the mess. I couldn't shake the sense that there was more. The card alone was ugly enough, but something deeper felt off. Why would my mom keep it active for 5 years without telling me? Why had the charges ballooned so suddenly in the last year? Curiosity twisted into obsession. I called the bank again, this time asking bluntly, "Can you send me the full history of authorized users and transactions tied to my account? Everything. From the beginning." The rep hesitated but eventually agreed, promising the report would arrive by secure email within 24 hours. When it landed the next afternoon, I opened it like a bomb technician, careful, nervous. Line after line filled the spreadsheet, dozens of entries I'd never seen before. Gym memberships, boutique clothing stores, spa treatments. But one line stopped me cold. Auto loan payment, $389 per month, vehicle. 2019 BMW X5, registered owner, Linda Carter. My vision blurred. Mom's car. The shiny SUV she'd paraded last Christmas, saying she'd finally treated herself. She hadn't treated herself at all. She'd treated herself with my credit. I scrolled further. More monthly payments. Furniture from Pottery Barn. A cruise the year before. Thousands layered into tens of thousands, all billed under my name. I slammed the laptop shut, heart hammering. My entire body buzzed with betrayal. This wasn't just a cruise. It was years of theft. Years of being used as their silent financier. I paced the kitchen, grabbing my hair with both hands. How could they? My own mother, leveraging my credit score, my stability, while I scraped by on freelance gigs to cover rent. I pulled the laptop open again, eyes darting over the numbers. If I didn't act, my future could be destroyed. My credit ruined, my savings drained, my chance at buying a home someday gone. The blue card sat on the counter, catching the light. I picked it up, ran my thumb along its edge. It was small, almost weightless, but it carried years of lies. My throat tightened. I needed proof outside the bank. I texted Sarah. "Do you remember when Mom got her car?" She replied, "Yeah, she made a huge deal about buying it cash." "Why?" I typed. "She didn't. She used me. My card." 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Finally. That's insane. You need to confront her." I dropped the phone, chest heaving. Confrontation felt impossible, but silence was worse. I grabbed the folder, stuffed with papers, and tucked the card inside. I whispered to Milo, "They think I'll roll over. They think I won't fight back." But this revelation wasn't just fuel. It was a vow. I wouldn't let them bury me under their debts. I sat at the table, journal open, and wrote the words slowly, deliberately. They used my name, my credit, my life. I will not be their scapegoat. Closing the journal, I felt something shift in me. A line drawn in permanent ink. What I didn't know yet was that this vow would push me into a direct counterattack. One that would finally shake the pedestal my family thought they stood on. Friday morning, the rain finally cleared. But inside me the storm raged hotter than ever. The folder in my bag felt like a brick as I drove across the Willamette River. Downtown Portland's glass towers flashing in the late autumn sun. My stomach knotted, but I gripped the wheel harder. Today I wasn't just a forgotten daughter. I was going to be my own lawyer, my own defender. I had booked a consultation with a small law office near Pioneer Square. The waiting room smelled faintly of old books and lemon cleaner. A wall lined with diplomas. A receptionist offered me coffee, but my hand shook too much to hold a cup. "Miss Carter," a calm voice called. A woman in her early 40s, sharp suit, dark hair pinned back. "Laura Chan, attorney at law." She ushered me into a small office, papers neatly stacked, blinds tilted against the glare. I sat, clutching the folder. "I don't even know where to start." "Start at the beginning," she said gently. And I did. The cruise, the Instagram photos, the charges, the BMW payments, years of hidden theft. My voice cracked, but Laura's expression stayed steady, absorbing every word. When I finished, I slid the folder across the desk. She leafed through, eyebrows rising at the neon highlights. "This isn't small, Emily. This is tens of thousands. Your mother misused your credit in a way that could damage your future. You have grounds for legal action." Her calm certainty steadied me. "So, I'm not crazy." "Not at all," she said firmly. "You're the victim of financial exploitation. And you can fight back." I swallowed hard. The words felt foreign, fight back. But they tasted right. She outlined options. Filing disputes with the bank, freezing accounts, even pursuing civil charges for reimbursement. It will get ugly, she warned. Family cases always do. But you have the paper trail. I nodded slowly. Ugly was better than silence. After the meeting I walked through the crisp air. Folder clutched to my chest like armor. Tourists bustled around Pioneer Square. Holiday lights already being strung up, though it was only November. For the first time in weeks the world didn't feel so crushing. That evening I sat at my desk drafting an email to my family. My fingers hovered trembling, then began to type. To Mom, Dad, Rachel and Michael. I am aware of the charges you've made using my credit card over the past 5 years. This includes but is not limited to the Royal Seas cruise, the BMW payments and multiple luxury expenses. I have compiled full documentation with bank statements and receipts. You are required to reimburse me in full within 30 days. If not, I will be pursuing legal action with my attorney. This is your notice. Consider this your final chance to resolve matters privately. I attached 3 PDFs: statements.pdf, BMW.pdf, cruise.pdf. My mouse hovered over send. My pulse hammered. Click. The email shot into cyberspace, irreversible. I exhaled shakily, leaning back in my chair. Milo jumped onto the desk, pawing at the keyboard as if sealing the deal. Minutes later my phone buzzed. Rachel replied first. You're unbelievable. Who threatens their own family over a vacation? Then Michael. Go ahead. Sue us. You'll look insane. Finally, Dad. Emily, you're tearing this family apart. Be reasonable. Let it go. I stared at the screen, fury burning. Let it go? They drained me dry, mocked me, erased me, and I was supposed to swallow it? I opened my journal and wrote 3 words in all caps: do not bend. The blue card lay on the table beside me, edges worn from weeks of handling. I pressed it flat against the page, tracing its outline like a battle crest. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about boundaries, respect, dignity. As I closed the journal, another message appeared, from Mom this time. Short, sharp. We'll talk when we get back. Stop embarrassing us. Embarrassing them. Not once did she admit wrong. Not once did she apologize. I set my phone down carefully, my hand steady now, almost calm. If they wanted a war of words, they'd get one. And the first battlefield would be the next conversation, when all the masks would start to crack. The call came on a Sunday evening, just as I was reheating leftover Thai takeout. The orange glow of the microwave reflected off the rain-streaked kitchen window. Milo meowed, weaving between my legs, but I barely heard him when my phone buzzed. Dad. I stared at the screen. My chest tightened. Then I swiped to answer. Emily. His voice rumbled, low and tired, like he was already the victim. We need to talk. My throat felt dry. About the thousands you stole? Sure. Let's. A pause, heavy. Then Mom's voice joined in speakerphone. Honey, don't start with accusations. We're family. The word family tasted like ash. Family doesn't drain my bank account and laugh about it. Rachel's voice cut in next, sharp and mocking. Oh my God, you're acting like you're destitute. You make good money. It was just one trip. One trip. My laugh was hollow. Then who's been making BMW payments in my name for the past 2 years? Who's been charging spa days and jewelry? Don't lie, I have every receipt. Silence. A long beat broken only by Dad's sigh. Emily, you've always had such a negative way of looking at things. We thought you'd be happy to contribute. You don't have kids, you don't have a mortgage. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles whitened. So I'm your piggy bank because I don't have kids? Because I live alone. Don't twist our words, Mom snapped. We included you. You excluded me. I cut her off, voice rising. You toasted family unity, while you used my money to erase me. Do you have any idea what that feels like? A muffled sound, maybe Michael laughing in the background. Drama queen. Same old M. My heart pounded in my ears. I wanted to scream, but I forced my voice to steady steel. You can gaslight me all you want, but the paper doesn't lie. Every charge is documented. Every payment tracked. You've used me like a credit line and I'm done. Dad's voice grew cold. If you drag us into court, you'll regret it. Family matters don't belong in front of strangers. I swallowed, forcing back tears. Family matters shouldn't include fraud. For a moment no one spoke. I could almost hear the static of their guilt, or maybe just their calculation. Then Rachel's voice, dripping with disdain. "You'll regret this, Emily. You'll end up alone." My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. I'd rather be alone than bled dry. My thumb hovered over the end call button, but I held on just long enough to add, "This is the last time you'll hear me begging. Next time it'll be my lawyer." Click. Call ended. The silence in my apartment was deafening. I dropped the phone onto the counter, hands trembling. My body felt wrung out like I'd just run miles. The smell of reheated pad thai filled the air, but my stomach roiled. I slid down the cabinet to the floor, knees pulled to my chest, breaths coming ragged. Milo patted over, nudging his head against my arm. I stroked his fur with shaking fingers. "They'll never see me the same again," I whispered. And maybe that's okay. For the first time I felt a strange calm under the fury. The masks had cracked. They didn't even bother denying it anymore. They just justified, excused, minimized. The truth was out, and it was uglier than I'd imagined. But I didn't know that the ugliest truth was still waiting. One twist that would make everything I'd uncovered feel like just the surface. The following Friday I received an email from Laura, my attorney. Subject line: "Important discovery. Call me ASAP." I froze mid-step in my apartment, grocery bags dangling from my arms. My stomach twisted. I set the bags on the counter, eggs wobbling dangerously, and clicked open the email. It was short, clinical. "Emily, I reviewed additional documents from the bank. Please call immediately. This goes beyond unauthorized charges." My heart slammed against my ribs. I dialed her number with shaking fingers. "Emily," she answered briskly, "I need you to listen carefully. When I pulled your credit file, I found something unusual. Your mother didn't just add herself as an authorized user. She opened a separate line of credit under your name." I blinked. "What? How is that even possible?" "She had access to your social security number from when you co-signed years ago. With that, she opened an installment account. And she's been making minimum payments, just enough to keep it from alerting you. But the balance is over $20,000. The room spun. I clutched the counter to stay upright. $20,000? In my name?" "Yes," Laura confirmed. "That BMW? It's financed under your credit profile, not hers. And that means legally, it looks like you owe the debt." I sank onto a stool, breath shallow. My mother hadn't just stolen my card. She had stolen my identity. Laura's voice softened. "I'm sorry, Emily. This isn't just about reimbursement anymore. This is identity fraud. If you want to pursue it, we'll need to escalate to federal authorities." I stared at the blue credit card lying on the table, its edges scuffed. For weeks it had been my symbol of betrayal. Now it felt like a mere doorway, leading into a cavern of lies beneath me. My throat tightened. "I don't know if I can press charges against my own mom." Laura didn't flinch. "I understand. But if you don't, your financial future is at risk. And she'll keep going." When the call ended, I sat in silence, Milo curling against my leg. My mind replayed every holiday, every smile, every toast to family. All of it poisoned. My mother hadn't just left me out. She'd erased me to build her perfect image, financing luxury while I struggled to pay rent. That night I couldn't eat. I couldn't even cry. I just sat staring at the highlighted statements, the numbers blurring into one long scar. Finally I dialed Sarah. My voice cracked. "It's worse than I thought. Mom used my name. For years. The BMW isn't hers. It's mine legally." Her gasp was sharp. "Emily, that's criminal. She could ruin you." "I know," I whispered. "And the worst part? I don't think she cares." Sarah was quiet, then said, "You have to protect yourself. Even if it means cutting her off completely." Cutting her off. The phrase lodged like glass in my chest. But maybe that was the only way. I closed my journal that night with one final line across the page. This isn't about money anymore. This is about survival. And I didn't realize it yet, but the next family gathering would force me to face them directly, with the truth laid bare in front of relatives who had no idea what was happening. 2 weeks later, I found myself driving toward my parents' house in Beaverton, headlights cutting through the early December dark. Holiday decorations twinkled on neighbors' lawns. Plastic Santas, glowing reindeer, wreaths hung crooked. My hands clenched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. I hadn't planned to face them so soon. But when Mom called insisting on a family dinner, I knew it wasn't an invitation, it was a summons. And part of me wanted it. If they thought they could corner me in private, I would do the opposite. Bring everything into the open. The folder sat on the passenger seat, heavier than bricks. Inside, highlighted statements, screenshots, Laura's legal notes. On top, the blue credit card taped to a sheet of paper like an exhibit in a trial. I pulled into the driveway, heart hammering. The house glowed warm with Christmas lights. From the window I saw shadows moving, my parents, Rachel and Michael already gathered. The perfect family, waiting for me. Inside, the smell of roast beef and cinnamon filled the air. Mom greeted me with a brittle smile, pearls at her neck. Dad poured himself a scotch. Rachel lounged on the couch in a new cashmere sweater, Michael twirling a Rolex on his wrist. My stomach churned. "Emily," Mom said lightly, "so glad you came. Let's eat before the food gets cold." I sat stiffly at the table. Plates clinked, silverware scraped. They chatted about the cruise, about Rachel's holiday party, about Michael's promotion. No one mentioned the elephant in the room. Finally, I couldn't stand it. I set my fork down. "We need to talk about the money." The room stilled. Dad's jaw tightened. Mom's smile froze. Rachel rolled her eyes. "Emily," Dad said slowly, "this is neither the time nor the place." "It's exactly the time." I shot back, voice trembling but loud. "Because you've been stealing from me for years. And you know it." I pulled the folder from my bag, slapped it onto the table. Paper spilled across the tablecloth, highlighted neon. The blue card slid out, landing in front of Mom's plate. Her face went pale. "These are statements. Receipts. The BMW, the cruise, the spa charges. You used my credit, Mom. You used my name. That's identity fraud." Rachel laughed nervously. "God, you sound insane." I shoved a paper toward her. "See this? Jewelry store receipt. Your birthday diamonds. Paid for by me." Her smirk faltered. Michael leaned back, scoffing. "So what? Family share. You're making a big deal over nothing." I pointed at his wrist. "Rolex. Did you pay for that or did I?" His smirk slipped, but he covered it with a shrug. "You can't prove that." "I can," I said, voice firm now. "And I already have a lawyer." Mom finally spoke, voice icy. "Emily, stop this performance. You're humiliating us in our own home." "No," I said, rising to my feet, palms pressed to the table. "You humiliated me. You erased me, mocked me, and left me to foot the bill. This is your shame, not mine." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the tick of the grandfather clock in the corner. My chest heaved, adrenaline rushing. Dad finally slammed his glass down, amber liquid sloshing. "If you take this public, you'll destroy this family." I met his glare. "You already destroyed it when you decided I was nothing more than a credit line." No one spoke after that. Plates cooled, roast beef untouched. Mom's eyes darted to the folder, then away. Rachel tapped her nails against her glass. Michael stared at his Rolex as if it could save him. I gathered the papers back into the folder, slid the card on top, and tucked it under my arm. My chair scraped loudly as I stood. 30 days, I said quietly. "Reimburse me. Or I file." And with that, I walked out, leaving the warmth of the house for the biting cold night. But as I drove away, headlights carving through the dark, I knew this wasn't the end. The real confrontation, the one where everything would explode, was still waiting. The confrontation came faster than I expected. 3 days after the dinner, my phone buzzed with a message from Mom. "Family meeting. Sunday 2 p.m. Our house." No explanation. No choice implied. I knew what it meant. They were circling the wagons. They wanted to shut me down before I made good on my threats. Sunday arrived gray and wet, typical Portland winter. I parked at the curb, folder tucked under my arm, heart pounding so loudly it drowned out the patter of rain on my windshield. Inside, the living room was staged like a courtroom. Dad sat rigid in his recliner, Mom perched on the sofa in pearls again, Rachel scrolling her phone with exaggerated boredom, Michael leaning against the mantel, Rolex glinting under the lamplight. I stayed standing, folder clutched in both hands. Dad broke the silence. Emily, this has gone far enough. I lifted the folder, placed it squarely on the coffee table. The blue credit card sat on top, its plastic edge gleaming under the lamp. No, it hasn't gone far enough until you admit what you did. Rachel snorted. What? That we took a trip. Please. I slid a highlighted statement toward her. That you stole. Thousands. BMW payments in my name. Jewelry in my name. A cruise in my name. Her smirk faltered. Mom's voice went sharp. We raised you, we sacrificed for you, and this is how you repay us? With threats. My throat tightened, but I forced my voice steady. What you call sacrifice, I call theft. What you call family, I call exploitation. Michael stepped forward, jaw tight. You think you're better than us because you have a job and no kids. You've always acted superior. I met his glare. Superior? No. Just tired. Tired of being your ATM. Tired of being erased. The air crackled with tension. Dad leaned forward, eyes blazing. If you take this to court, you'll regret it. No one will side with you against your own parents. I pulled out a sheet of paper, Laura's legal letter, and slid it across the table. They will when they see this. And the bank statements. And the credit report. Mom snatched the paper, skimmed it, her face paling. For the first time I saw fear flicker in her eyes. Rachel's voice broke the silence, brittle with desperation. You're ruining everything. The vow renewal, the cruise, the car. None of it was meant to hurt you. Then why, I snapped, voice cracking, did you toast to family unity while excluding me? Why did you mock me in your messages? Why did you pretend I didn't exist? No one answered. The silence was louder than any denial. Finally, Dad muttered, almost to himself, because you remind us of everything we couldn't be. The words hit like a slap. My chest tightened, tears stinging, but also clarity. This wasn't about money. It was about shame. About their need to project perfection while burying me as their scapegoat. I pressed my palms flat on the folder, leaning forward. I'm done carrying your shame. It's yours, not mine. 30 days. Pay me back or I press charges. My voice shook, but it didn't waver. The room buzzed with unspoken panic. Mom looked at Dad, Rachel bit her lip, Michael shifted uneasily. For once, they weren't united. I picked up the blue card, held it in the air for them to see. This little piece of plastic? It's proof. Proof that I'm not crazy. Proof that you crossed the line you can't uncross. And with that I slid it back into the folder, tucked it under my arm and walked out. The slam of the front door echoed behind me like a gavel. Outside the air was sharp with rain, the sky a heavy slate. I stood on the porch, chest heaving, realizing I had finally spoken the words I'd swallowed for years. But victory was fragile. As I walked to my car I knew the fallout was coming. And fallout in a family like mine would be devastating. The days after that meeting felt like the silence after a storm. I drove back to my apartment that Sunday night with the wipers smearing rain across the windshield. The streets were empty, holiday lights blurred in the wet. By the time I stepped inside, my hair plastered to my face. Exhaustion weighed me down like cement. I dropped the folder on the coffee table and collapsed onto the couch. Milo jumped onto my lap, purring, his warmth grounding me. I stroked his fur absent-mindedly, staring at the blue card lying on top of the folder. It looked so small now, yet it carried the wreckage of years. The apartment felt cavernous, the hum of the refrigerator loud in the stillness. For the first time I let myself sob. Ugly, gut-wrenching sobs that left me gasping. Every insult, every exclusion, every mocking message replayed in my head, louder than the rain outside. By Monday I felt hollow. I went through the motions at work, reviewing spreadsheets, answering emails, but my mind was elsewhere. My coworkers laughed in the break room, planning Secret Santa, while I sat at my desk with earbuds in, pretending to listen to music. That evening I heated a can of soup and ate it straight from the pot, too tired to bother with a bowl. The taste was metallic, but it filled the emptiness. The folder sat untouched on the coffee table all week. Every time I passed, my eyes caught the blue card. I thought about cutting it up, about throwing it in the trash. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead I started cleaning. Something about scrubbing the counters, vacuuming under the couch, folding laundry. It gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in weeks. Piece by piece I reclaimed my space. On Friday night I lit a candle, lavender my favorite, and cooked a real meal for the first time in days. Pasta with garlic and olive oil, fresh parsley sprinkled on top. I ate slowly, savoring the warmth. Milo meowed, pawing at my ankle, and I laughed, an actual laugh, shaky but real. After dinner I pulled out my journal. My pen hovered before I wrote. They tried to erase me, but I'm still here. Still standing. The words didn't fix everything, but they stitched something small inside me. That weekend I drove to Cannon Beach. The Oregon coast was windy, waves crashing hard against the rocks, gulls crying overhead. I wrapped my scarf tighter and walked the shoreline, the salt air biting. Standing there, I let the wind whip my hair and shouted into the roar of the waves. I'm not your scapegoat anymore. My voice disappeared into the surf, but it felt good. Freeing. Back home that evening, I placed the blue card in a mason jar on my shelf, not hidden, not destroyed, displayed. A reminder. Not of shame but of boundaries. The emptiness of betrayal still lingered. The family dinners, the holiday gatherings, the sense of belonging, all gone. But in their place, something new had begun. The fragile outline of a life on my terms. I didn't know if they'd ever pay me back. I didn't know if they'd ever apologize. But for the first time I realized I didn't need their permission to exist. And soon the final truth about why they had cut me out would surface. One last revelation that would change how I saw everything. The call came on a Wednesday night, nearly 3 weeks after the family meeting. I was curled on the couch, blanket around my shoulders, Milo asleep on my lap when my phone buzzed. Mom. I almost let it go to voicemail. My thumb hovered, heart hammering. But something in me wanted to hear what she'd say when she finally couldn't hide anymore. I swiped to answer. Her voice was tight, shaky. Emily, it's your mother. I know, I said flatly. Silence stretched. Then she sighed. I've been thinking. About everything. I waited. Finally she whispered. We didn't invite you on the cruise. Not because we forgot. Not because we thought you'd hate the ocean. We didn't invite you because you remind us of things we're ashamed of. The words cut sharper than I expected. Ashamed? Of what, me? No, she said quickly. Of ourselves. Of how we handled money, of the debts, of relying on you. You always made good choices. You worked hard, built credit, stayed stable. Every time we looked at you we saw what we weren't. And instead of owning that, we punished you. I pressed the phone harder to my ear, bile rising. So you erased me. Because I made you feel guilty. Tears pricked my eyes but anger steadied my voice. Do you know what that did to me? Every Christmas, every holiday, every time you laughed without me. It told me I didn't belong. On the other end she sniffled. I know. And I'm sorry. Sorry. The word landed like a pebble tossed into a canyon, small. Almost meaningless compared to the chasm it tried to fill. You used my name, I said, voice trembling. You destroyed my trust. And you toasted to family while cutting me out. A single sorry doesn't touch that. She tried again, softer. We thought if we could have one perfect moment without you reminding us of our failures. I cut her off. Then it wasn't perfect. It was fake. And you can keep it. The silence that followed was raw, jagged. Finally she whispered. You're stronger than us, Emily. Maybe that's why we feared you. I swallowed hard, throat aching. You should have loved me for it. I ended the call before she could answer. For a long time I sat in the dark, Milo stretching lazily beside me, the hum of the fridge the only sound. My hands shook but my chest felt lighter. Not healed, not yet, but clear. I pulled out my journal and wrote. They feared me because I reflected their truth. But that's not my burden. It's theirs. Then I placed the phone next to the mason jar, holding the blue card. 2 symbols side by side, one of betrayal, one of release. I realized then, the story wasn't theirs to tell anymore. It was mine. And I wasn't the erased daughter. I was the narrator finally speaking. And soon I would decide how this story ended. Not with shame but with healing. The new year arrived quietly. No parties, no family countdowns, no champagne toasts. Just me, Milo, and the hum of the heater in my Portland apartment. And for the first time that was enough. I spent the holiday weekend decluttering. Boxes of old clothes to donate, papers to shred, trinkets from years of trying to prove my worth to people who never saw it. Each bag I carried to the curb felt like lifting a stone from my chest. On the 3rd day, I turned to the mason jar on my shelf. Inside, the blue Chase credit card caught the afternoon light, its surface scratched and dull. For weeks it had sat there, an artifact of betrayal. Today it looked different. Not a wound but a warning. A reminder that boundaries weren't cruelty. They were survival. I opened my journal, the one filled with shaky handwriting and highlighted rage, and wrote slowly. I am not their scapegoat. I am not their credit line. I am my own. The words steadied me. Sarah came over that evening, bringing takeout and laughter. We sat cross-legged on the floor, cartons of pad thai and dumplings spread out between us, Milo weaving hopefully for scraps. She raised her soda can. To new beginnings. I clinked mine against hers. To chosen family. The apartment echoed with our laughter, louder than it had been in months. Later that night, I opened my laptop and booked a flight. Not to the Caribbean, not to some flashy resort. To Santa Fe, New Mexico. Somewhere I'd always wanted to visit, where the desert met the sky in colors I'd only seen in paintings. A trip for me, paid by me, belonging only to me. When the confirmation email pinged my inbox, I leaned back, smiling. For once, the money leaving my account wasn't stolen. It was invested in joy. As I packed my bag weeks later, I tucked the mason jar into a corner of the shelf, next to a new candle and a framed photo of me and Sarah at Cannon Beach. The card inside remained uncut, unbroken. A relic, a symbol, not of pain anymore but of victory. Before locking the apartment, I whispered to Milo, "This time I pay for me." On the plane, as the Oregon clouds gave way to endless sky, I closed my eyes. The betrayal still hurt, and maybe it always would. But pain no longer defined me. My boundaries did. My choices did. And the truth was simple. Family doesn't mean sacrifice without respect. Family means love with limits. I smiled, penning the final line in my journal as the plane soared south. Respect is worth more than money. And I finally respect myself.